What's up, YouTube? Kristo here, and I got another video for you. Something new again. I've another one I've wanted to do for a really long time, but just getting around to doing it now. This one I'm calling 5 fragrances I got totally wrong. Basically, I'm gonna man up and admit that I've both loved things and then later hated them, or hated things and then later loved them. I think it's just an inevitable part of pretty much any hobby, especially something so subjective as perfume. Your taste changes, your nose changes, you develop your taste, you get better, generally speaking, if you keep at your hobby. Your nose gets more refined, you know what you like, you know what you don't like. Tastes change. You end up being able to smell that things are perhaps not as high quality as you used to think. You're able to pick up flat dry downs, which is a big thing for me. Usually when I hate a fragrance, it often will have to do with a flat dry down, or at least when something smells cheap to me, it's often because of a poor dry down. So all of those are kind of factors here. I've got a whole long list of these, so I'm going to just do one part today, then maybe a couple months down the road I'll do another part later. Not in any specific order, but I did keep the last one intentional because it is kind of one of those fragrance epiphany moments. I'll talk about that a little bit later though. So no specific order. The first one is Terre de Hermes, and this one I have flip-flopped on more than any other fragrance in my entire perfume career. The first time I tried it, I didn't like it. I thought it was kind of old manish. I thought it was too mature for me. I was definitely into fresher, cleaner fragrances back then. I remember like Prada Amber Pour Homme was like my favorite at the time. So to me, Terre de Hermes was just like gross. I didn't like it. I gave it a little time, tried it again, which I think is a good approach. You should always retry things, even if you don't like them, because taste changes. And I couldn't get enough of it. I loved it. I actually put it in like my top 10 designer lists maybe 4 years ago or so. And for a couple of years, I was just madly in love with it. And then went back again. Every time I sprayed, all I could smell was the overwhelming ISOE in it, and that combined with like the kind of fermenting citrus, it just really put me off. Now I'm kind of neutral. I don't like it, but I definitely don't hate it as much as I used to. I've sniffed it at the Hermes boutique a few times, like recently, and it wasn't doing anything for me, but I definitely wasn't hating it. So it is interesting. I've flipped and flopped on that one so many times, but I think kind of, at least for now, or probably for a while, I'm just not into it. I definitely wouldn't buy it again. Second one, this is an interesting one. This is kind of what inspired me to do the list now, like at this time. Next one is Guerlain's Bois d'Harmonie. And this one, I didn't like it at all. I was like, this is too sweet. It's too juvenile. It's too gourmandish. I actually reviewed this with Chad, and said pretty much that. Actually had some pretty harsh words for it, if I recall properly. And I just ended up trying it on a whim at the Guerlain boutique, and I was like, you know what? I kind of like that kind of boozy, like petrol, vanilla, sweet resin thing in the opening. It kind of got my attention. This is, maybe 6-8 months after I reviewed it and panned it. Chad loved it. I didn't like it. And yeah, totally changed my mind on this one. I'm actually wearing it right now, and I love it. It's the opening is just so high quality. Like you can smell just like the supreme quality that Guerlain does with their exclusives, and I never had a problem with that. My problem initially was that I found it too sweet, but there's definitely something that's drawing me to it, and I'm actually hoping to pick up a bottle because I think it would be amazing for winter coming up, because I really don't have many sweet, gourmandish, or sweet resin fragrances. It's usually not something I'm into, but I just cannot get enough of Bois d'Armagny at the moment. It's amazing. Next one. This one was probably one of my favorites for a couple years. Back when I started getting into niche fragrances, this is high on my list to try. I actually ended up getting a sample from a friend in the FragCom, and was kind of like, okay, I don't really smell much here. Wasn't that I didn't like it, I just couldn't really smell anything. I ended up getting a large decant in a split, and I loved it. Rose 31 from Labo. And I talked very highly about it on my channel numerous times. I've recommended it to people on Facebook and stuff several times. And now I'm just totally not into it at all. I think with Labo, I've kind of unfortunately had my eyes open to this like really generic kind of skin cream lotion that they have in a dry down for a lot of their sweeter or more feminine fragrances. And I know Rose 31, the whole idea is meant to be rose for a man, but it does obviously have more feminine characteristics. When you look at something like Oud 27, for example, which is like, all balls, like, it's barnyard, fecal, cow poopy oud, even though there are some nice florals in it. But definitely Rose 31 leans feminine, even if it's made for a man. And I find over and over with a lot of the more feminine or floral-based fragrances from Labo, they end up just smelling like skin cream or hand lotion or whatever, to the point where I just can't enjoy it anymore. Whenever I smell it now, it reminds me of my grandma's rose-scented hand cream she used to have when I was a little kid. And I always remember that. I don't know why, but it's something I've always associated with her, because I remember smelling it so much when I was young. Like staying at her house in the summertime. And it's just all I can think of now is like thinking of my grandma's rose-scented hand cream when I smell it now. It's definitely not a bad quality fragrance, but I'm definitely going off Labo. I'm kind of getting bored of what they're doing. They're just kind of like perfuming by numbers, if I can borrow a phrase, and which is ironic because they actually name everything with numbers in this like scientific approach, and I don't know. There's still some good scents from Labo, but Rose 31 I'm totally off at the moment. Next, now this is a good one. This kind of goes hand in hand with Bois d'Armagny, but the opposite. Guerlain, Rose Barbare. This one I tried in Singapore the first time about 3 years ago, I think. You cannot get the Guerlain exclusives, or you couldn't at least get the Guerlain exclusives in Indonesia. I don't know. I doubt they've made it there. But I really, really wanted to try them. I'd heard so much about so many of them, and I went to Singapore. They've got a few really nice boutiques over there. I got to try pretty much everything, and the only thing that really stood out from that series was Rose Barbare. It's kind of like right when I was getting into rose as well. I was like, wow, this is like supremely high quality. I remember thinking it was like dark and flinty and resinous, rosy obviously, and I was like, I loved it. I was doing research trying to find out how much it was, seeing if I could get a bottle shipped to Indonesia, how much it would cost, etc., etc. No luck. Kind of forgot about it for a little while, and then last year when I got to go to the Guerlain boutique in Toronto, which carries everything, I tried again. I was like, oh wow, I haven't smelled this for so long. Remember it being different than I remembered. It wasn't really dark or flinty like I remembered it. It's actually like a lot of patchouli, a rose as well in there. And I was like, oh wow, I forgot about this. It's different than I remembered, but I love it. I can't wait. You know, I want to get a bottle. And then the next time we went, I ended up getting a sample of it. I brought it home. I sat down to do some research online, and it just got ruined for me. There's a cologne note, like a synthesized water or liquid kind of feel that you get often in cheap designers. As soon as I read that online, it just stopped. It was over. I just kind of like got stopped in my tracks, like you see in a horror movie when someone, you know, opens a door and sees a dead body and everything just freezes. I just like everything stopped. I was like, oh my god, all I can smell is that cheap cologne note now. And ever since then, I do actually have it on my arm right now, just kind of trying to bring out some memories and notes and stuff. And it's just ruined. I actually tried to wear it. Eugene, a very good friend in the FragCom, he loves it, and he was urging me to try it again because he doesn't pick that up at all. So I wore it a couple days ago, and it actually was like making me a bit nauseous. I couldn't handle it. I don't know, just the cheap watery note mixed with the patchouli and kind of sour rose. I don't know, it really puts me off, which is unfortunate because I really want to like it because I know it's a good fragrance, but there's just something, the cologne note, that really, really puts me off in it. And the last one, initially what sparked this whole series, because it was such a huge kind of fragrance moment for me. I remember trying it over and over in my early days in the FragCom. I think even before I was reviewing on YouTube, when I was just like in the Base Notes Fragrantica community, and you know, favorite fragrances ever. It kept coming up over and over, and you know, guys calling it like a panty dropper and how it gets them so many bitches and stuff like that. And I don't know, maybe that's kind of what put me off, because I did actually read threads that said stuff like that. I was like, oh, it's kind of icky, but whatever. I remember trying it. It's like, who would want to smell like this? It's gross. It's disgusting. It's horrible. And then, I don't know, something happened and I just was in love with it and everything changed. Dior's Fahrenheit. I would honestly call it a modern masterpiece. I think it did something in the 80s that needed to be done in perfume. It just changed fragrance. It changed men's fragrance forever. There's a few other things around that time, but I think that one is the most important, and it is the one that I still love. Like, I love Fahrenheit, and every time I smell it, something happens to me. I just like, wow, this is amazing. This is a true work of art. So yeah, it's such a huge polarization. Like, I utterly detested it. Not just like the description of it, but also just like, who wants to smell like a dirty, oily lawnmower kind of thing? And then now it's just like, I want to smell like a dirty, oily lawnmower. I love Fahrenheit. I really want to try the Parfum edition. I've heard it is quite different, but I still would like to try it. Can't get it in Canada for some reason yet, though. But yeah, Fahrenheit was just a game changer for me. Like, I would still consider it an all-time best designer fragrance, like, without even thinking twice about it. But yeah, so there's my list, or at least 5 from my list. I'd love to know what you think. If you've had any epiphanies like this in fragrances where there's that moment where you're just like, wow, this is actually pretty awful, or the opposite where you're just like, wow, I can't believe I used to hate this. Love to hear what you think. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you again soon.